Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to GBFC2, the second channel of the George Benson Football Channel, which is my YouTube channel. I've not posted in a week, and if you watch the 6 Things We Learned video from Chelsea's win over West Ham, you'll know that I kind of had to save my voice a little bit last week. All of the videos that I was making was made with probably one of the worst sore throats I've had this year. Don't worry, it wasn't COVID, thank goodness. But we're back again today with 10 things that we learned from the Premier League for match week 14. There have been some cracking games. There have been a lot of goals. There have been a lot of away wins, some fascinating performances and social media reactions. And today we're going to go through game by game, finishing off with a look at the Premier League table to see what we are going into before Christmas. Often the table at Christmas time says a lot about what's going to happen with the Premier League come the end of the season. With this season, I highly expect that it's probably going to have nothing to do with what happens come the end of the season because of the unpredictable nature of what the Premier League has been this season, and since COVID affected football, no home fans, is it really any point at the moment of a home advantage? Does it exist? We're going to take a look today and start with a home advantage that certainly made no difference whatsoever to Liverpool's blitz at Crystal Palace. They won 7-0. When Virgil van Dijk was out injured and it came out that he was probably going to miss the entirety of the season or the majority of the season, a lot of rival fans, although we don't want to get excited about a very good player being injured, or any player for that matter, no one wants to see an injury like that, but in terms of people feeling that the Premier League might become more competitive as a result of that, it excited some people. I think I probably approached talking about that the wrong way. I'm sure you guys that, are switched on know exactly what I'm saying there. But it doesn't seem to have affected Liverpool at all, to be honest, particularly recently. They had a lot of other injuries. They had Mo Salah out from COVID. And then all of a sudden now, their front three are back fully fit again, and even though Diogo Jota was scoring a lot of goals for them, they've now got Salah, Firmino and Mane back firing, and 7-0 away at Selhurst Park. It's not the easiest place to go. Roy Hodgson, he sets Palace up to be quite difficult to beat. However, Liverpool went there and they were absolutely sublime. It's one of the best individual performances of the season. I'd say the other one that was just as good was the one that Liverpool were on the wrong end of, which was Aston Villa scoring 7 against them. They get their goal difference back up to something that it should be at this stage of the season. Liverpool were very good. They start to pull away a little bit at the top of the table. I don't know if it's going to be as easy for them to just run away with it the way they did last season, but with the way that they've started to win games now consistently, they're starting to score a lot of goals. And a lot of the teams around them, for example, Chelsea went on a 2-game losing streak. Spurs have only got 1 point from their last 3. Maybe it's time that Liverpool started pulling away again. I hope not, just for the sake of the title race and my team Chelsea's chances of winning it, but it was a thumping victory for Liverpool. Now, the second game that I want to talk about is Southampton 0, Manchester City 1. Southampton have been one of the surprise packages in the Premier League this season. There's been something about Pep Guardiola's Manchester City that hasn't quite clicked into gear in terms of the way they're playing, and a lot of it, in my opinion, was down to the form of the man who scored the winning goal in this game, Raheem Sterling. I don't think Sterling has been as good when two things. There's not the pressure of Leroy Sané on that left-hand side, so there's not really anyone competing for his place. When he had players like David Silva around him, when Aguero was always fit, these kind of quality of players really elevated Sterling's game, and this season it's just not looked the same, but it's a good win for Manchester City, a tough one away from home. We've seen Southampton get very good results this season. They managed to draw against Chelsea as well, and I think they got a draw against Arsenal in the previous game they played too, so good win for Manchester City, another clean sheet. There's been defensive wobbles from them this season as well, but that was a very big 3 points. Now, Sunday's fixtures, we will start off with Arsenal, who are Chelsea's next opponents, but Everton, they're doing very well under Carlo Ancelotti. If you look at what happened for Everton Football Club in the year that Ancelotti's been in charge, they might not have won a trophy yet or qualified for the Champions League, which I think are the 2 key things that Everton fans want from their football club, but Ancelotti, when he took over last year, Everton were in 15th place in the Premier League table. Now, they're sat very pretty in 4th. They beat Arsenal 2-1. Arsenal were absolutely atrocious in the first half. They kind of came to life within the last half an hour, but it's too little too late. And for an Arsenal team that over the years have always been known for playing attractive football. It's always like, I heard that Gary Neville say this in his podcast with Sky. He said that Arsenal are never playing boring football, but now it looks as though the players are bored of the way that they've been set out to play. They're bored of playing with one another. There's not really a connection between the players, and you don't really know where the next win is going to come from. I know I've probably just jinxed that, and they'll probably come and beat Chelsea now at the Emirates on Boxing Day after playing so awful for the entire season. But credit to Everton, it's another good win. They went on a bad little run of form. They've beaten Chelsea at Goodison. They've just beaten Arsenal as well. And they are serious contenders for the top 4 this season. If you're an Everton fan, let me know if you think you're going to make it in the comments down below. And if you're not an Everton fan, let me know if you think Everton will finish in a Champions League place come May. The next game is Newcastle 1, Fulham 1. Recently, Fulham have actually started to play a lot better under Scott Parker. I think that if we look at relegation candidates for the season, I'd still say that they might be one of the favourites to go down, but they've started to play a lot better. They got a good result against Liverpool. They're not losing as many matches now in succession as they were at the beginning of the season. As for Newcastle, they needed a goal from Callum Wilson from the penalty spot in order to score against them. And it's still worrying really for Newcastle. They made a decent start to the season, but I struggle to see where the quality is going to come from. As for Fulham, they play some nice football and they've just got to convert more chances now. If they can do that, then I think they could be safe. Now the next game is Brighton versus Sheffield United. I think these two sides, particularly Sheffield United this season, Sheffield United have been absolutely woeful. They get themselves another point away from home, but Danny Welbeck saves the day for Brighton Hove Albion. I don't think Brighton played the worst football, but I think recently they've looked a lot worse than they have been at the beginning of the season, where they put in some good performances, but maybe didn't get the right results. As for Sheffield United, they needed to try and hold on to that lead. At the moment, they are an absolute shadow of themselves of last season. I think we can see that having the fans in Bramall Lane made a massive difference to Sheffield United last year. They were so difficult to beat, played good football, coming up from the Championship, but at this moment in time, I see nothing other than relegation for them. And the final game on Sunday here for me in Bali, I know there's more games on the Saturday, but when I look at the list of games, it was played on the Sunday here in Indonesia. Spurs beaten 2-0 at home to Leicester, and it could have been more if it wasn't for VAR ruling out a James Maddison goal, which would have made it 3 for Leicester. Jamie Vardy again scoring a wonderful goal. Leicester are doing very well. They're picking up some great wins, and going to Spurs and getting a result like that, Spurs are in a bit of a wobble right now. They've only got 1 point from their last 3 league games. They were top of the league. Now they're falling away. And Leicester, they keep getting better and better under Brendan Rodgers. But the problem with Leicester is consistency. They turn up one game and they look like one of the best sides in the league. Turn up the next game and it's as if like a little switch has been flicked or clicked, like the click of my bloody fingers, and they're nothing. They're absolutely useless. So who knows what Leicester are going to turn up. I think they've got a game against United coming up soon, which is a big one near the top of the table, but a big result for Leicester City, and maybe another little worrying bottle from Jose Mourinho's Tottenham. What do you reckon? Now we move into the next game, and it's Manchester United beating Leeds United by 6-2. If this game would have finished 10-5, nobody would have really questioned it if they actually watched the game of football. United blew Leeds away in the first couple of minutes of the game. Scott McTominay turns up like prime Paul Scholes and absolutely, ends the game within the first 180 seconds, which is mind-blowing to be honest. But what is there else to expect from Bielsa's Leeds United? 1 week they'll score 5 and win. The next week they'll concede 6 and lose. It's the nature of what they're doing. And I know that there was a lot of interesting comments that were made on social media regarding the nature of what happened to Leeds in this game. United ripped them apart. Defensively, Leeds were atrocious. Going forward, if Patrick Bamford could have had his shooting boots on, they could have scored a lot of goals. It's always going to be the way with Leeds this year. They'll concede a load of chances. They'll get a load of chances. But if we compare what they're doing to what they're doing at Arsenal, it looks as though even when Leeds have conceded 6, it looks as though they're really enjoying their football. They believe in the system that they're being told to play. And I think come the end of the season, Leeds will have picked up enough points playing this way in order to stay up. And then maybe next year they can invest a bit heavier in some better playing personnel to improve the squads, Whether they manage to keep hold of Bielsa as their manager, we will have to wait and see. But the blueprint of what he's all about is certainly being imprinted right now into this Leeds United team. And Manchester United, to focus on them, what an incredible turnaround it's been. They've only won 2 of their last 7 at home in the Premier League, but they're on a 10-match Premier League away win streak, which is madness. And even though they keep conceding goals, they're starting to score now. And I think there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that the world-class addition of Bruno Fernandes back in January has made the world of difference to this Man United team. They're playing with 2 holding midfielders, Fred and McTominay, who are arguably the best players on the pitch for them against Leeds, ironically. But it just shows how different games of football are when you're playing against that kind of Leeds side. But normally, when they line up with those 2 holding midfielders, I'm like, you wonder where the goals are going to come from and how they're going to create lots of chances. But that attacking 4 or 5 that they often field is so good that at the moment, they're blitzing past teams and they're getting results. With a game in hand as well, United could be in for a title challenge. I don't think so just yet because there's still a lot of defensive worries, and I think that they maybe are just 1 or 2 games away from a slip up and then maybe they drop out of form again, but it's promising at the moment and you can't rule them out. So the next game was the Midlands derby between West Brom and Aston Villa. Again, Jack Grealish steals all the headlines. He didn't manage to score. El Ghazi scored twice for Aston Villa away at West Brom. Sam Allardyce's first game as West Brom manager. You look at what they're doing at West Brom and you would have thought that they were destined to go back down to the Championship. But Sam Allardyce comes in, the master of keeping teams in the Premier League, and quite frankly, it wasn't the best start to his managerial career at West Brom. Yes, they went down to 10 men, but it wasn't a very resolute display. Aston Villa were tearing them apart at times, and they were missing some of their key players. But Jack Grealish, there's a reason why Aston Villa have slapped a £100 million price tag on him. The man's a game changer. He creates more chances at the moment than any other player in the Premier League, and that is playing around players that aren't as good as some of the players he could be playing at if he was playing for one of the top 6 sides. Jack Grealish, I think he's only a half of the season away from a huge money move to a big club next summer. The next game is Burnley versus Wolves, and I actually watched a little bit of this game because I couldn't sleep before the Chelsea game. I normally try and go to bed early. It didn't happen for me last night, and Burnley actually played some pretty good football. They're not normally known for that kind of style, but the reason I think they were able to be a bit more expressive in the game against Wolves is because Wolves play a very rigid system. They work very hard, but I think Sean Dyche's Burnley kind of knew this, and they actually tried to play a little bit more, and it was actually a really entertaining game for something that I didn't think was going to be that fun at all. Burnley get the 3 points. Wolves, the inconsistencies continue. They beat Chelsea, then they lose to Burnley, and it's not really the kind of form that's going to help them elevate to get back into Europe for next season. And the final game was Chelsea versus West Ham. I don't want to spend all of the time talking about this one because I did 6 things we learned over on the main GBFC channel, but the key thing for Chelsea was we needed to bounce back from the 2 defeats in a row. West Ham, they look pretty dangerous to be honest, and 3-0 is an incredibly flattering scoreline for Chelsea and slightly unfair for West Ham, even though I love beating them. West London versus East London, they're London rivals, but on the grander scheme of football, and this channel is less Chelsea biased and more football related, West Ham did not deserve to lose by 3-0. But anyway, that wraps up this week's Premier League football. It's Boxing Day football this weekend, so Premier League predictions will be out over the next couple of days. Thank you guys for watching. If you're not yet subscribed to GBFC 2, make sure you do so. And if you could hit the like button on today's video, it would be grand. It will help me out and help the channel grow. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know the 10 things you learned from the 10 games in the comments. I'll catch you guys later. See you then.